Hey, it's Caressa.
Hey, it's Maddie.
You're not watching the Disney Channel right now.
You're listening to
Dreadfully Twisted. Hey guys, we're sorry we weren't here last week.
Yes, we missed you. We kind of took the holiday week off
because I like to do more than I can do.
Yeah. And Maddie likes to get sick for no reason. So, it's just been one thing after another. So, yeah.
I signed up for like 5 or 7 volunteer events this past 2 weeks, and I am dreading it for work. So, bear with me. I am so sorry. I've just been busy. And then Maddie got sick because the universe is like, it's going to be fall, You're getting sick. So
that was fun.
So we're so sorry we weren't here last week.
We missed you, everybody.
Did miss you. But we also kind of figured that since it was Labor Day weekend, you guys are going to be busy anyway. So maybe you weren't even expecting an episode, or maybe you were. If you were, sorry.
But we are back.
But remember how I told you that something happened on my way here?
Yeah.
So I can't see the street. I probably could see the street. Do you know, to try to explain this without giving away. Okay, let me just tell you where and then I'll say. So that street, I was driving down it. And right before that street turns into just trees and the water on the side, there's a house right before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving and I was going kind of fast because I was I'm kind of late. So I was driving a little bit fast, but then I saw 5 police cars.
Oh my gosh.
A truck, 2 other cars pulled on the side of the road. So I was okay, so I slowed down. I stopped because there was another truck coming this way back towards my house. And I was okay, what is going on? And then I looked over and I saw 2 guys in a suit, 2 guys wearing 2 suits, suits, standing in front of this house, looking at the police officer, talking to this police officer that was standing over here. And I was what is going on?
What the heck?
What is going on right now?
That's a little concerning.
Yeah. So then this truck turns around, leaves. This car leaves the other way. I was okay. And then the cop was waving me on. And as I was driving past, I looked over into their driveway garage, and there was another police car right there, but it was an unmarked police car.
Yeah.
In the driveway. And I was okay. And then as I was driving more, I saw another police car headed back that way. Mm-hmm. That was where everything was going on. And I was what the heck is happening? Is there a dead body or something?
That's so weird.
So then I immediately called Jeremy because I was I need to tell him before I forget. So I called him and he was hello, why are you calling me 5 minutes after you left your house? What? And I was so this happened, and he was I'm sorry. And I'm why are you saying sorry? I was just telling you.
Yeah.
But then he was well, I guess you'll find out on Facebook later. And I was maybe. But I'm just I want to know what happened. Why? And there has not been somebody in the house. People moved in the house maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen activity. So I'm did something happen? That was suspicious?
Concerning.
Very concerning.
Google it.
I was going to try to, but I wasn't sure if I could find anything.
Yeah. Maybe not yet. Maybe.
I don't know. I'm just going to look up the road address maybe. But yeah, so that happened on my way here. So I had to wait 5 minutes, and I'm just what's going on? And then I was should I just turn around? Because I was am I even allowed to go through here? Because my side of the road was open, but I was am I supposed to turn around? Because I don't know. No, nothing's popping up. I'll probably have to look later, but I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah.
So that happened. I don't think anything else happened. That was really anything. I've had some orbs on my camera. That was just 1 or 2. So it's been active here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything spooky with you?
Nope. Lately.
Okay.
We still have to go to that cemetery and
I know.
Walking,
yeah.
Bring the EMF.
I'm not quite.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Bring the EMF.
I'm tired. I think I'm starting to get slap happy. I've been up since 5 a.m., so bear with me. And it's my case today, and it's a case that I've just been working on for 3 weeks, I swear. I'm gonna be done with it now. I've been working on it for way too long.
Yeah.
It's just okay, I know about it. But there's also one where there was just so much more than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So let's get into it because it's probably gonna be a two-parter.
Oh wait, you know the case that you did about the Randonautica suitcase?
Yeah.
Murders. There's an episode on Netflix. You should watch it because they talked about. Okay, it's worst roommate ever.
Okay.
It's called. I'll send you it if you want me to.
Okay.
And it's like they covered that because you know the guy who everybody said looked like a teddy bear was the one. You know,
Yeah.
And they showed this other.
Yeah, because technically they were roommates.
Yeah, and they a couple people who like lived there talked about their experience there and like stuff. And there was another thing that happened that I don't think we talked about on it, and I was like, that actually happened. I was a little shook. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's sad.
Tell me. I want to know. If anybody else doesn't want to know and you want to watch it, please skip ahead, but I want to
know. This lady had dogs there, and she asked him to babysit her dogs while she went on vacation and look after them and feed them. And when she came back, or no, while she was on her way back, he messaged her and was like, one of the dogs escaped. And she's like, oh my God, you know, like, are you looking for the dog and stuff? And she's like, yeah, we're looking for the dog. And he was like, we found the dog and we're bringing her back. And then she was like, well, what about the other dog? Because you said the other two were there. And like, he didn't mention the other dog, Pepper. And then I can't remember what he said. I don't remember what he said. I don't know, but I forget what he said. But whenever she got there, he just came into her room holding a chicken and said, I killed Pepper. And then she said, what do you mean you killed Pepper? And he's like, Pepper killed one of my hen's babies, so it was an eye for an eye. And I'm not going to go into detail what he did because, yeah, you can go watch that for yourself if you want to, but it was literally depressing. I was like, what? And he loved dogs. Like,
no, you didn't.
Like, you obviously didn't love dogs.
No, you didn't.
You could do something like that.
You did not.
Like, what an awful person. He was literally crazy.
That does make sense, though, because when the couple were living there, I forget their names. I don't remember their names at this very second because my brain's not working today.
Austin
and Jessica?
Yeah.
Austin and Jessica.
I think.
Yeah, Austin and Jessica. When they were living there, he killed 2 dogs in front of them to scare them. So that does check. So he did not love dogs.
No, he didn't.
And
he's also a psychopath, so.
Yeah, and he's killing him. Yeah.
Obviously a lot.
We hate him.
So yeah.
Oh my God, you just heard my stomach.
But if you guys didn't watch, if you guys didn't listen to that case, go ahead and listen.
Yeah, go listen to it. I don't remember what episode it was, but it was the Randonautica suitcase murders. Yeah. And I'm sorry if you heard my stomach. It growled really loud. Sorry. What was that?
Viewers will understand the house crack.
Oh, I was like, is there ghosties here? Like ghosts. Okay. So speaking of paranormal and murder, today is going to be an interesting case. A very interesting case. So, remember how I think it was a couple episodes ago that I talked about going to that cryptid mountain mini golfing thing? Yeah. So, I got this case from going to there because it's not a cryptid, but it was part of the cryptid like mini golf, which we do need to go to because they're doing things for Halloween. I forgot to tell you, they're going to be doing things for Halloween. They're going to have a fog machine. They're going to have sound effects. So we gotta go.
We're going.
We gotta go.
We're going. We're doing this. We're going. This is the pinky swear. We're going.
So we have to go because I forgot about that. But they have like fall hours, but we could definitely work that out. But this was a part of like that experience, and it is the Greenbrier Ghost. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. So, so that's what we're covering this week. I just talked about, I'm looking at my notes really quick because I wrote beginning of this back in the beginning of August because it was after Still City Con. So I started this like around like August 13th. Yeah. So bear with me. It's been almost a month. So it's something spooky cryptid related, but it is also true crime. Ooh. It's true crime with a twist because it's also paranormal because this is the first and only time that a ghost was used as evidence in a trial.
I'm intrigued.
Here we go. Bear with me here. Okay. So So we're going to start talking about the main girl in this. Her name is so pretty. It's Elva Zona Heaster Shue. So that's her name. She was born in 1875. However, the census from 1880 said her birthday was sometime between 1873 and 75. So I'm not exactly sure what year, but a lot of resources and a lot of articles have said 1875. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm going with. Yeah. Because I don't know. Yeah. I don't know where they're getting this information from, but the census said 1873. Yeah. So this is why this also took me 3.5 weeks to do it, because it's from the 1800s. You know, the 1800s of it all. So.
Yeah. Guys, it is very hard to research old cases, just so you know.
It was. I had to go through articles. I even bought this book to read, and that's also why it took me forever. Yeah. So I had to make sure that all my information was correct from articles. I was looking at census information. Like, I was digging deep into this. So that's why it's going to be probably a two-parter, because I was really putting my investigative hat on. So she was born in Meadow Buff, West Virginia in Greenbrier County. I'm going to refer to her as Zona because it seems like that is what everyone called her and what she went by. And plus, like, saying Elva Zona is going to get hard. So I'm going to just call her Zona, because that's also super pretty, though.
Yeah.
So Zona's parents were Jacob Hedges Heaster and Mary Jane Robinson Heaster. She was the second child out of 7. All of her siblings were brothers. Zona was the only daughter from what I found. Her one brother passed away as an infant is what I found in 1878. So she had 6 brothers. Her family were farmers and owned a farm that was along the Midland Trail in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, which is actually located deep in the Appalachian Mountains, too.
Oh.
Yeah. The closest town community was Livesey's Mill. Due to it being the 1800s there, wasn't much around this time. They lived in kind of an isolated area, like in the woods and everything. Around the Heaster's house, there was only 2 official buildings in the area, which were little log cabins, Nichols Schoolhouse, and Soul Methodist Church, which were both built in 1849, which was a long time ago, and were actually named after the local circuit hider preacher. Mary, who was Zona's mother, was very religious and took all the children to Soul Methodist Church on a regular basis. Mary was described as hardworking, honest, and fair. The Heaster family was well liked in the area. They were kind to everyone. All the kids... Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me back up a second. I have a note here, because this was over a month ago researching this, so bear with me. Okay, let me back up a second. I'm sorry. I was jumping ahead. They helped with farm work and played... Oh, wait. No, I was right. What am I doing? Oh, my God. I'm sorry. I've been up for like a million hours.
Talking is hard, and so is thinking. Especially when you've been up.
Yeah, I've been up since 5 a.m. Well, technically, I've been up since 3:30. Because I woke up with a Charlie horse in my leg.
Oh, no.
So then I barely fell back asleep, and then I woke up at 4:50.
Those are literally the worst things ever. I feel like I'm about to die.
Yeah, because like I was just stretching or something in my sleep. I don't know what I was doing, but I was stretched, and then I woke up from that stupid thing. It was annoying. So I am sorry. Bear with me. I've been up for... It's like 8 o'clock, and I've been up for like a million hours. Oh, I've been up for over 12 hours now, so please bear with me. And I also haven't eaten since like 11, so... Or 10. 10, so please bear with me. All the kids were happy and healthy growing up. They all helped with farm work, played together in the woods and the meadows and the creeks. Zona was beautiful. She had long dark hair and brown eyes. She was described as super sweet throughout her childhood and adulthood. I'm going to show you the book. That's what she looked like.
Oh, she's pretty.
She was very pretty. Due to Zona being the only daughter, her and her mother, Mary, were so close. They were best friends, to the point everyone thought they were actually sisters. Because they were always together. Her brothers were very protective of her, since she was the only girl, and always looked out for her. Since both her parents and brothers looked out for her and were protective, Zona didn't get out much until she turned 16. When she turned 16, she was considered old enough to start helping with trading and selling in the town. Because the family, like, they owned the farm, and they, like, would sell to the town and trade for, like, other goods, because it was the 1800s, so, like, they needed to help everybody. Like, they were so community-driven. So before then, she would help, like, around the farm. She would help with, like, anything that, like, they needed help with at the farm, like, crops and stuff. But they were like, okay, she's old enough to now be able to go out and do this for us, so then the mom could stay home and everything. Like, to look out for her younger siblings. Because she was the second oldest, so the mom needed to be there for everything. So Zona took Mary's place in that. So her job was to work with the horses and load the items that were being sold or traded, which this helped Mary with being able to stay home and take care of her Zona's younger brothers and daily farm chores. Due to most of the time Zona did this trip alone, sometimes one of her brothers would join her, but most of the time they were needed in the field, so she normally would just go off by herself. Zona, majority of the time, did these trips alone into town, and on one of the trips, Zona met the son of Fayette County farmer George Woodridge. That's really hard to say. George Woodridge. He was a few years older than Zona, and he worked at Livesay's. I don't know how to say that. I'm so sorry. It's like Livesay's mill as a laborer. They got to talking and seemed to get along so well. They started making trips into town to see each other, just for like random things, not even for like trading or anything. They would just make trips into town just to see each other, which is so cute. I guess I'll talk about this later. You'll see in a second. And they went on dates. They ended up falling in love. In the spring of I kept doing that. Earlier, whenever I was doing research, I kept writing 1987. Yeah. And I was like, no, this is an 1800s. I kept yelling at myself, and I just did it. In 1895, not 1995, 100 years earlier, 1885, 1895, not 85. Oh my God. I'm struggling. I'm struggling. Oh my God. Please bear with me.
Something like that.
My brain is just like, you need to sleep. I think it's also because I haven't had food, so like I'm just getting like sap happy from like not eating. So in 1895, Zona was pregnant. At this time, Zona and George were not married, and their families didn't think they were ready, and specifically, they felt that George couldn't support a wife and a baby. That's rude.
That is rude.
That's so rude. So George, yeah. George agreed to support like child support and visits with the baby. This was civil. No issues were like had with anything. Like they were like, civil with it. They were still together at this time, I believe. They just weren't married. On November 29th, on the Heaster farm, Zona gave birth to a baby boy. However, the baby, I guess I should put a trigger warning in here. Trigger warning, loss of a child. So if you don't want to hear this, please skip ahead. On November 29th, on the Heaster farm, Zona gave birth to a baby boy. However, the baby soon passed away after being born. Due to this, the baby didn't have a name. There is actually a birth certificate for him, but it only says like Woodridge or baby Woodridge. So it doesn't actually have it in this book because this book has a lot of the information that I found. It has so much stuff. And I'll give you the name of this book in a second too, because this is where I got like most of my research from. Yeah. But that's what the birth certificate says. It just says Woodridge. Yeah. So, baby Woodridge was buried on the Heaster family farm, not in a church graveyard, and that was because Zona and George weren't married, so they couldn't put him in like a specific place. They had to bury him on Zona's property because that's where she lived. And I wish they would have just let them get married. Yeah. Because if they would just let them get married and like let George prove himself that he could support a wife and a child, Zona would have never went through what she went through. And it makes me angry. But we're not going to get there yet. Yeah. I'm still going to talk about Zona for a while. I'm nervous. You should be. Oh, God. Zona was absolutely devastated. I went to the country accent. Zona was absolutely devastated.
She's getting into character, guys.
I'm getting into character. I'm going into the 1800s. Yeah. I'm like living there in my mind right now. And also, I've been like in like the olden days, like time mindset, because I've also been watching Peaky Blinders, and that's like based in the 1920s. So like my mind is just like in like the 1800s, early 1900s of it all. So bear with me.
We just drank at the same time.
My throat's so dry right now. I think it's because I've been talking way too much, because I talk way too much and I annoy myself, and I probably annoy everybody, and I'm sorry.
No, you don't.
And you're all seeing a side of me that I do not want to face. This is the ADHD side of me. The side where like I cannot control what I do. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so she was devastated by the loss of her child, which is so understandable, and she and George actually ended up ending the relationship a year later, or a little bit after, because of everything. Like they just both were devastated, and they just didn't want to be together anymore, which is sad. They should just let them get married.
Yeah.
But a year later, George married a woman from Virginia. As for Zona, her mother Mary prayed for Zona and her suffering to eventually end. And eventually, Zona kind of recovered, but she wasn't the same, no longer happy and carefree as she was before, but she did seem to get better. But before we keep going, I have to talk about the person that we're gonna hate.
Oh no.
We hate him.
I don't know who you are, but we don't like you.
So, Erasmus Stribling Trout Shue. Interesting name.
It sure is. Never heard of that before. Okay.
Was born in 1861. His parents were Jacob Thomas Shue and Elizabeth Virginia Cook Shue. They have so many names back then. They have like 5 names.
Yeah,
like what is
seriously?
His nickname growing up was Trout, so I'm going to refer to him as Trout because he is a little fish. He's a fish. That's what we can say about him. Because he's stinky and gross and awful, and I hate him. And I don't like fish, so we don't like him either. I'm sorry if you like seafood. I don't. So that's what I'm going to refer to him as. He had 8 siblings, brothers and sisters. Trout was spoiled by his mother and sisters because he had a delicate constitution. Quotes. Don't know what that means.
Interesting use of words.
Yeah. Interesting word choice.
Yeah, word choice.
His father, on the other hand, was a Confederate soldier during the Civil War and didn't return home until 1865, so Trout didn't have a relationship with him. The face that you just made. You're just like, all right.
Okay.
When the war was over and Jacob returned home, the Shue family lived in Pocahontas County at Droop Mountain. Jacob went back to working as a blacksmith. In Trout's younger years as a child, he loved being the center of attention and telling stories. But he also had a hot temper and a dominant personality. Yeah. Trout worked with his father at the blacksmith shop when he got older. In 1880, Jacob Shue became one of the most prominent wealthy men in the county, which in turn, Trout started taking advantage of the good fortune and courted many women. Because he was like, oh, I'm rich, I'm gonna get the ladies or whatever, because 1800s of it all. Eventually, Trout settled, on quotations, on Ellen Allie Esteline Cutlip. Her parents were James and Emily Cutlip. Allie is what I'm going to refer to her as because I'm not going to say all their names.
Yeah.
Plus, she was considered, like, everybody called her Allie and she preferred that. So I'm just going to call her that. Allie was from Greenbrier County. She was so pretty. Trout was her first boyfriend. They ended up getting married in 1885. However, the marriage wasn't a happy one. Trout would abuse Allie. She stayed with him even though he wasn't good to her at all. He wasn't a good husband or provider. Trout wouldn't be home for days and refused to give reason to where he was.
Wow.
Yeah. Great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Sounds like a wonderful.
Oh, he's going to get even better.
Oh, I figured.
In the first year of their marriage, Allie got pregnant, and in February of 1887, she had a daughter, which they named Gerda Lucretia Shue. I think that's a pretty.
Kind of crazy, but yeah.
I think they're pretty.
Yeah, some of them are really.
After Gerda was born, Trout became even more erratic.
Oh, great.
He was gone most of the time and wasn't making enough money to support his now family. After Gertie turned a year old in March 1888, Trout requested Allie to pack all of her and Gertie's belongings and to leave. Allie refused, so Trout threw all their stuff outside but packed his stuff and left. Throughout the next year, Trout wouldn't go to his father for help, so he spent that time trying to get work anywhere. In fall of 1888, Trout Shue was arrested for stealing somebody's horse. This next part made me laugh. He went to Hillsborough for a preliminary hearing with the Honorable Justice Kennison. He wasn't tried until April 3rd, 1889, and the trial didn't take long due to he did plead guilty to the charges, which led him to being automatically convicted of being a horse thief. I didn't know that was a thing.
I know, same.
And I spelled thief wrong whenever I wrote this. What was I doing? His sentence was 2 years in the state penitentiary, the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, West Virginia, which I've been wanting to talk about forever.
Yeah.
But I haven't because, again, from the 1800s. It's going to take a million days and months and whatever to research it.
Yeah.
But I did visit this penitentiary last year, and it was really fun. But I want to go again because I want to go at night and do like a paranormal tour. So I think that would also be something that we can do.
Yeah.
Go at night because it is haunted. Go at night and do that. And then maybe like, I don't know if we can record it or not, but maybe try to record it or something. Or even just talk about it. And maybe we could do our episode like on the West Virginia State Penitentiary because there's so much about that jail. There's so much history. There's so much murder. There's so much everything. Like true crime, paranormal stuff, everything in it. So I think it would be cool.
Yeah, it would.
But the penitentiary is in West Virginia in Moundsville, which it looks more like a castle than an actual jail. Like whenever I first went there, I was like, this looks like a castle.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like that on the inside. It's like falling apart. It's not like a thing anymore. It's just for like museum and stuff. But on April 11th, the jail was also built in 1876. So it was relatively new compared to this time. It was only like 20 years it's been open.
Yeah.
It was like the beginning of it. So on April 11th, 8 days later, is when he was brought to the penitentiary, and his prison number was 1817. There is an actual record from this, and it described Trout as a white man, medium build, height, blue eyes, scar on his ankle, and also stated he was educated. That's an in-depth record.
Yeah.
And in the prison, the inmates who could work jobs, Trout worked in the blacksmith shop because that's what he could do. While Trout was in prison, Allie decided to begin the divorce process because with him in prison, he couldn't harass or intimidate her. She ended up having a divorce hearing in Greenbrier County, and she told them, he, without any cause, abandoned and deserted me. He moved out when Gertie was about a year old. Then on November 5th, 1889, they granted her the divorce. So she was able to divorce him, and she left. A little over a year later, on December 20th, 1890, Trout was released 2 months early from prison on good behavior. Yeah. Sure. The next 4 years, he worked as a farm laborer and a blacksmith. Lived back in Trout Mountain. Trout didn't make any effort to talk to Allie or see his kid.
Wow.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Great father. Guy. You're so great.
Yep. Guy of the year.
In 1894, Trout met 16-year-old Lucy Ann Tritt. Trout is about 33 at this time. Gross.
Yeah.
Why are you hitting on a 16-year-old?
That is disgusting. Back to jail you go.
Yeah, right?
Please.
In the spring, they started dating, and then they got married on June 23rd.
Ew.
Yeah. They moved from Trout Mountain to Hillsboro because Trout found work there. That winter in 1894 into 1895 was severe. Snowstorms was like major, and they would get so much snow. So it was cold and everything.
Also, that kind of stuff was literally so common back then, and it's disgusting. It's just like mind-boggling how that was like such a thing.
Like, oh, you're 15, you can bear this 40-year-old guy.
I know, it's like, what? Like, how is that even?
When he's old enough to be your father, like,
and possibly your grandfather. Like, what?
Right? So it's gross.
It is gross.
And it gets even worse.
Oh god.
And the storms in this time, like the snowstorms, weren't usual. Trout, man. Trout. I don't like you.
Same.
Okay. Hang on, because it gets bad here.
Someone needs to throw this trout back in the ocean.
Right. Just boot him out there. On February 11th, Trout climbed on a roof on the house to repair damage that was caused by the snowstorms. This is what Trout claims. Keep in mind.
Of course.
Did you do your hair again?
No.
Oh, it looks different. Oh, I guess because you have it like pulled back.
Yeah. It's the same.
I thought you like dyed it or something.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just So this is what Trout claims. He was throwing bricks off the roof as he was replacing them. Then, get ready for an eye roll. Prepare yourself.
Okay. Coming.
He then claimed that as Lucy was bringing him water, that Trout tossed a brick off the roof, which collided with her head.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. What a coincidence.
Yeah. Perfect timing. Perfect angle, perfect everything for this to happen.
That's just wow.
Then Trout.
That's like literally like the excuse of all excuses.
The epitome of excuses. Yeah. Then Trout went to the local doctor, and the doctor pronounced Lucy dead because of the injury.
Oh.
The sheriff questioned Trout, but he insisted Lucy's death was an accident. Due to no evidence, no witnesses, and not knowing what exactly happened to Lucy, Trout was not charged with killing her. They were only married for 8 months at this time.
God.
This is his second wife. And the investigation ended. Lucy's family all suspected foul play, and they told police about how Trout was a convicted felon, but that didn't matter. They just didn't. Police wouldn't do anything. Which was the 1800s of it all.
Yeah.
It was normal back then for them to just be like, oh, he's a good guy. He's not going to jail. Even though he's a convicted felon and he killed his first wife. Or not first wife, his second wife, it seems like. No, he's a great guy. He didn't kill her. Because, he said he didn't.
That kind of reminds me of the staircase. Have you ever heard about that case?
No. Oh, wait. Is that the staircase where the guy, his wife fell on the stairs while he was outside in the pool, and he said that she was drunk or whatever, and she fell on the stairs?
Yeah, and then his other wife did the same thing.
What?
Yeah. But it was a different, way. Yeah.
Wasn't that like in 2007 or something?
I don't remember when it happened, but there's a documentary. It was on Hulu, I think.
I'm pretty sure I watched it. That'd be an interesting one to cover.
Yeah, it would.
I've been watching Forensic Files lately, and I got some cases from there that I want to cover.
Yeah.
Because I've been watching it again. So, where was I? The investigation ended. Lucy, okay, I already read that. When the weather cleared up, Lucy was buried in the Whitting Cemetery on Droop Mountain. Trout didn't show sorrow or anything for Lucy's death, and he still went on with life. He even told friends that losing his first 2 wives didn't upset him. He believed it was his destiny to have at least 7 wives before dying.
Oh my God. What is wrong with you?
Oh, can't you just pick one?
Seriously.
To have 7?
Oh my God. And does that mean you're just going to kill them all until you get to 7 or something?
I don't know. That's very suspicious. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have 7 wives before I die. What does that even mean, dude?
That's a little concerning.
Red flag.
Yeah, red flag.
Red flag, red flag.
5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars.
Give us 5 stars. So, we're going to switch back to Zona now. Because it's gonna come to something here. The loss of Zona's child and the relationship with George failing both devastated Zona. Throughout this time, she continued to live with her parents on their farm and became even closer with her mom, Mary. They had similar personalities. Mary would pray that Zona would find a good man to marry and have a family with. Zona had started going back out into the world by the spring of 1896. She started attending church and visiting friends and delivering to Livesey's mill again. Often for that, she was... hold on, I gotta... Let me make sure. Okay. Often with that, she would tag along with her older brother when he drove the wagon to town because he would buy wire and supplies for the farm. During one of these trips, Zona met a new blacksmith who said his name was Edward Trout Shue.
No. Run.
After Trout was released from prison, he started going by the name Edward to distance himself from his past, so people wouldn't know like that he went to jail for stealing a horse. He became a drifter in the Greenbrier County in the Pocahontas area. After the death of his second wife, Lucy, and never stayed in an area any longer than a couple months. But now he was in Greenbrier County, in Livesey's mill, and Zona met him. However, Trout went to Livesey's mill after hearing the owner, Charlie Tuckwiller, needed a new blacksmith. Trout did end up getting the job, and he rented a 2-story house. This part is very important. The house was on a hill and a walking distance from the shop. So he would walk up and down. He also would walk to home multiple times a day during work. Keep that in mind for later. Which could be seen from the shop's double doors. So you can also see his house from the shop. So it was clear view, which comes in later. Zona was interested in Trout from his good looks and his loud manner.
And Zona.
Yeah, run. Just run. Don't. It's just so sad. Everything about this is just so sad. Since Trout arrived at the shop The shop became a meeting place for young people. Zona looked forward to visiting him as much as she could. However, Mary didn't know why Zona was all of a sudden so happy, and she was so happy to see Zona's spirits be lifted, but she didn't know what the reason was, but she also, like, really didn't think of it. Mary and Jacob Heaster went to the town one day. She met Trout. She immediately didn't like him. She felt he was a braggart, which was in quotes because that's a little thing that she said.
Yeah.
Was too brazen with young girls. Some were barely more than children. Yeah.
God.
Gross. They would be around him as he told his tall tales. Trout was also intimidating the young men around. Mary then found out that Zona was meeting with Trout. She was appalled. Mary begged Zona to not see him again, but Zona wouldn't listen. Always trust your mom.
Yeah.
in situations like this, always trust her. She knows. Instead, Zona packed some bags and left for the town when Trout said that they should run off and get married after just meeting her.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Wonderful idea. Just to clarify, that's not a good idea.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
Red flag, red flag, red flag.
So on October 20th, 1896, Trout and Zona were married at the Lewisburg Station parsonage. Zona didn't wear white. Instead, she wore a wine-colored dress she made. Trout was bragging to everyone that Zona was his third wife and that they would have a wonderful future together. And just for clarification, that's the dress she was wearing.
Oh.
She didn't wear white because she got pregnant before getting married, so she didn't wear white. There was no reception after the wedding because Zona's parents also didn't approve of the marriage, so they did not attend. So instead of a reception, Trout and Zona went back to the Livesey's mill and grabbed Zona's stuff from the shop and walked up that path leading to Trout's house. I don't know what that says. The house he was renting, sorry. My handwriting gets worse as this goes on, so please bear with me. It's gonna get worse. After the wedding, Zona spent a lot of her time cleaning and polishing the house, and she also walked through the little town and spent some time with the residents, which was new for her because her life on the farm was so isolated. She was not used to having so many people nearby. However, the life Zona imagined she would have with Trout was not happy. Trout was funny and attentive at first, but then soon changed to demanding and quite unfriendly after they got married. It didn't help that Zona was away from her family and she couldn't see them. Because I didn't mention this, but the travel from the town to Zona's house was like 2 hours. Oh, wow. And back then, that was awful because you didn't have a car. You didn't have, you had a horse. Yeah. So she was not around her family. Zona really was missing her mom, Mary, and Mary refused to see her at Trout's house, though, because she did not like him at all. Zona thought that she might be pregnant and that's something she wanted more than anything. Trout seemed to want that, too. Dr. George Knapp said it was too early to tell if she was really pregnant or not. Zona thought for sure that Zona thought for sure that it would heal the issues between her family and it would make them accept their marriage if she didn't have a child. On January... Okay, prepare yourself again. Let me get a drink of water. I'm running out of water. On January 23rd, Trout was super busy at the blacksmith shop. Trout would normally go home several times a day, but instead on January 23rd, he went to the house across from the blacksmith shop instead of going home. The house was of Reuben and Martha Jones. Martha was previously, before the Civil War, a slave on the plantation of Marlunda, and she was known to her neighbors as Aunt Martha, which is so cute.
Yeah,
that's so cute. Like, just everybody could she's everybody's aunt. I love Martha. Trout asked Martha if her son Anderson Jones could run to his house and check on Zona because she wasn't feeling well. I'm also going to refer to Anderson as Andy because it's easier. Yeah. And that's what he was called. There's a lot of me referring to them as different names, so I'm sorry. And it's a lot of information, so I'm sorry. It's a lot of dates and a lot of stuff, so I'm sorry. Just bear with me for a little bit because it's going to get really quick, like really bad, really quick. So he also asked because he was too busy at the shop to go. But like I said again, he would always go home multiple times a day, so all of a sudden, can you not go home now? Trout also asked Andy to gather the eggs and asked Zona if she needed anything from the store on his way home. Martha said Andy could after he did some work at Dr. Knapp's house because Andy promised him that he would do this work for him. And this seemed to make Trout angry, but he said okay and went back to work. Trout asked then several more times if Andy had run to the errand, but an hour later Andy went to the Shue's house. Andy had been to their house multiple times to deliver messages or brought goods from the general store. But this time something felt off as Andy was walking up to the house. Like he just knew, like your instincts normally just know. So like that's how he was. He just knew. Whenever he walked to the front door, Andy saw some blood drops on the front steps. It was not like a line or anything, but it was just like droplets. So he knocked on the door, but Zona didn't answer. After waiting, Andy slowly opened the front door, and there was a trail of blood, so Andy followed it to the dining room. And Zona was laying on the bottom of the stairs. Andy ran out of there and ran home as fast as he could. When he got home, he wouldn't talk because he was so scared, and it traumatized him. After some time, his mom, Martha, got him to say, and this is in quotes from him, quote, "All the doors were closed, and there was an air about the place I didn't like. There she was, stretched out on the floor, looking up at me through open wide eyes. She seemed to be laughing. I was frightened, but she was still able to reach down and shake her. She was stiff and cold," end quote. He's like 14, I think, at this time.
Oh my god, that's traumatizing.
I think that's how old he was. Yeah. All of this also horrified Martha, so she went with Andy to tell Trout. Once they told him, he immediately ran to their house. Martha also followed. When they got there, they found Zona on the floor, just like Andy described. Zona's body was straight with her feet but her feet were together. One hand was at her side and the other was across her body. Her head was to one side. Trout went up to her and touched her, and then he told Martha to get the doctor. Dr. Knapp, who is also the Greenbrier County coroner. I don't know how that works. You're a doctor, but you're also a coroner? Okay. I guess 2 in 1 then. Got to got to the Shue house around 2 p.m. After Martha went to get the doctor, this next part is weird. Trout took Zona's body up to their bedroom and washed her.
Hey then.
He also dressed her in the wedding gown that she had worn. It also had a high collar, so you couldn't see her neck. Then he closed her eyes and put a black veil on her face.
Oh god.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird. It seemed that Zona died quickly, so Dr. Knapp thought she had a heart attack at first. Side note, I saw this in the book I was reading. A heart attack in Appalachia is known as an everlasting faint.
Oh.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I just want to say that. So Knapp needed to examine her body to see if he could determine if it was a heart attack. But whenever he went to look at her, Trout became very aggressive towards him. He was angry and he threatened him. Even as far as when Knapp tried to check Zona's neck, Trout lifted her upper body into his arms against his chest, pushing Dr. Knapp away so he could not examine her.
Oh god.
Her neck specifically. And this next part, be prepared. Trigger warning. I'm going to talk about miscarriage for a second because this is what they think happened. So Dr. Knapp decided that Zona must have died from a miscarriage or childbirth complications because he knew she was pregnant. Due to the respect for Trout's grief, that's what he determined, so he left.
Shaking my head.
Why? You could have ended it all here.
Yeah.
But no. You just, again, let him do whatever he wants, and then you're just like, oh, I'm just going to respect his grief, so I'm just going to say she died from this.
Oh, my God.
Without actually inspecting her body.
What is wrong with them? What is wrong with you?
I don't know. The news of Zona's death spread like wildfire through the town. It got to two men, Dick Watts and Lewis Stewart. They were friends of the Heasters. They volunteered to go to the Heaster farm and tell the family. It took several hours for them to get to the Heasters farm because the roads were covered in snow. When they arrived, they told the family and they stayed for an hour until everyone calmed down. The family made arrangements with Dick Watts and Lewis Stewart to have Zona's body brought to their farm where they were going to have her wake and bury her in Soul Chapel Cemetery. The next day, Mary didn't think that Trout would... Wait, what? Okay, Mary didn't think that Trout wouldn't go along with the plans due to he didn't have his own property because he was renting and to bury Zona, and he didn't have much money for a funeral. I guess back then they would just bury people like near their houses and stuff, it seems like. Zona's dad gave the two men money. Jeez, I'm sorry. Money to buy a coffin in town and to have her body delivered the next day. He didn't tell them whether to invite Trout or not to come with her body, but he knew Trout wouldn't let the funeral happen without him, so he left it to the men to decide what they thought was best. Once they left, the family sat around the fireplace in shock. At this time, Zona was only gone for 3 months.
Oh my God.
So they were only married for 3 months.
Wow.
Even less time than Lucy and Trout.
Yeah.
Also going to put a disclaimer in here. Zona's body wasn't embalmed. It wasn't common back then for them to do that. It wasn't a practice that they normally did. It just wasn't something that the 1800s people would do. So her body wasn't embalmed. The next day, Zona was buried and Trout wouldn't leave her body. He also wouldn't let anyone touch her. Trout also put her head on a pillow to support her neck. On one side, it was like he put a knotted sheet, and on the other side, he then wrapped a heavy scarf around her neck and said that's how Zona wanted to be buried.
Don't be suspicious.
Don't be suspicious. Right? But when they went to bury her, they had to take the sheet and pillow out of the coffin because the coffin wouldn't close with it in there, so they took it out. And when Mary did this, she went to go give them back to Trout, and he refused to take them, so Mary took them and put them in her purse or whatever, and she took them back home. So we talked about Zona's and Trout's life, Zona's death. Now it's going to get more interesting.
Why?
And I think we should stop for part 1 because we're at 50 minutes. Part 2 might be a little bit shorter, but I feel like we should break this up into 2 parts just because like it's going to be a very long episode. So part 2, that's part 2 because I feel like this is a perfect place to stop.
Yeah.
Because now it's going to get even more interesting. So let's end this episode and we'll start a new one. So if you want to see some pictures of Zona, I will post them on the social medias pages and stuff like that. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. How do we end this? I need help. So if you want to go to our social media pages, it's Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dreadfully Twisted Podcast. Yeah. If you want to send us your stories or cases that you want us to cover, your stories could be something that happened to you or a family member. They could be sent to, it could be true crime or paranormal, and they can be sent to our email at dreadfullytwistedpodcast@gmail.com, or you can comment on our Reddit page or backslash Dreadfully Twisted Pod, and you can listen on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Samsung Podcasts, not Amazon Music, Apple, or my God.
Samsung, Apple.
All those. Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to.
Yeah, anywhere.
I'm really struggling. I am sorry. Yeah. So, and then on Spotify, you can rate us 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. And I also just want to thank you guys so much. We did get a lot of followers over the past couple weeks on Spotify. And
Instagram and Facebook.
And Instagram and Facebook. And we wanted to thank you for that. And I also wanted to thank you for the 5 stars that you have given us.
Yes. Because
we have had some 5 stars put out there since the last few episodes. So we thank you very much for listening. And we hope you keep listening. And we will keep our true crime and paranormal cases for you here. And yeah, we will see you next week.
We love you.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye. Check out for part 2 next week.